I was 18 the day my parents buried me. At least, that's the story they told the world. A polished pine coffin, a closed casket, for everyone's emotional comfort. A priest who didn't know my name well enough to pronounce it correctly, and a cemetery full of faces pretending they had ever cared about me. They wept, they whispered, they traded theories like gossiping vultures circling a carcass. But beneath all of it, under every tear and every trembling sigh, I knew the truth. I wasn't dead. I was disappearing. My name is Adelina Rousseau, and when I vanished at 18, it wasn't by choice. It was survival. The night it happened is tattooed into my mind with a clarity that makes sleep feel like a luxury I can't afford. I remember leaving our small house on the outskirts of Blackridge Hollow, slamming the door behind me after another screaming match with my parents. People who loved perfection more than they ever loved their daughter. They always expected me to be quiet, polished, obedient, a flawless porcelain doll that smiled on command. But I had cracks, and one night those cracks finally split open. I stormed out with nothing but my backpack, anger burning so hot it swallowed the cold air. I took the narrow forest road instead of the main path. I wanted silence. I wanted space. I wanted to forget the look my mother gave me when she said, "You're a disappointment, Alara. You always have been." I didn't hear the van pull up behind me until the headlights washed over my shadow. I didn't have time to scream. Hands grabbed me, rough, fast. Something sweet, sick, and chemical pressed over my mouth. A smell like rotting flowers filled my lungs. The world flickered at the edges and then dissolved entirely, falling away like static. When I woke up, I wasn't home. I wasn't anywhere. For 5 years, I lived in the cracks between civilization, moved from one hidden location to another, passed between the hands of people who saw me as property, currency, leverage. A foreign girl in a foreign nightmare, ripped away from the world and reshaped into something unrecognizable. But I didn't break. I learned them, their schedules, their patterns, their weaknesses. I learned patience until it became a weapon sharper than any blade. I learned silence so complete it became a shield. 5 years is a long time to plan revenge. 5 years is long enough to rise from the dead. When I escaped, bloody, barefoot, and shaking, I wasn't the girl they tried to bury. I wasn't the daughter my parents mourned in a fake funeral. I wasn't the ghost the town whispered about. I was something else entirely. And I wanted the truth. The first place I went wasn't home. It was the cemetery, Blackridge Memorial Grounds, a place I used to pass on my way to school, always walking faster near the gates, as if the dead could reach out and drag me close. I found my grave on a hill overlooking the town. Adelina Rousseau, beloved daughter, 1999 to 2017. Beloved. The word almost made me laugh out loud. I stood there for a long time, staring at the grave of a girl who no longer existed. My breath fogged in the cold morning air. Birds chirped softly in the trees. Somewhere in the distance, the town was waking up. People going about their lives unaware that the ghost they buried stood just a few streets away. My fingers curled into fists. I wasn't here to haunt anyone. I was here to confront the living. Stepping back into Blackridge Hollow felt like walking into a memory that had been left out in the rain. Familiar shapes blurred by time, old colors washed out by years of absence. The corner bakery was still there, run by Mrs. Halloway, the older woman who used to slip me free pastries on exam days. The coffee shop still had teenagers huddled outside with steaming cups and loud laughter. Cars rolled down the street in lazy mid-morning patterns. Everything was the same, except me. I kept my hood up as I walked. My reflection in the shop windows didn't match the girl people remembered. The girl in that funeral photo with soft blonde hair, gentle eyes, and a shy smile. My hair was darker now, short and jagged from uneven cuts. My eyes held storms no one could predict. My skin had the hard-earned toughness of someone who learned to survive in the dark. But the biggest change was invisible. Inside me was a quiet fire burning slow and steady. A fire built from years of wanting. To escape, to breathe, to live, to return, to confront. The Voss residence sat at the end of a long cobblestone driveway lined with dying hydrangeas. My mother's pride. The house hadn't changed. White paint, black shutters, A porch swing that creaked on windy nights. A yard so meticulously trimmed it looked unnatural, like a photograph of a home rather than a real one. No turning back, I whispered to myself. I crossed the yard with footsteps so soft it felt like I was walking through a dream. I reached the front door. My hand hovered over the doorknob. Then the door opened. My mother stood there, Elizabeth Voss, the picture of control. Her blonde hair was perfectly styled, not a strand out of place. Her clothes crisp, expensive. Her face composed, unreadable. But the illusion cracked the moment her eyes met mine. Her pupils snapped wide. Her breath hitched. Her hand flew to her mouth. "Elara?" she whispered, voice trembling for the first time in my life. Behind her, I heard footsteps. The heavy, slow ones of my father. "What's going on?" he called, irritation coating every syllable. My mother didn't answer. She was frozen. Her body was stone, but her eyes were wildfire. I stepped inside the threshold and watched the color drain from my father's face. He gripped the banister like he needed it to stay upright. His voice came out in a fractured whisper. This can't be real." "Hi, Dad," I said softly. "Miss me?" The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. My mother recovered first. She lunged forward, cupping my face with trembling hands, her fingers cold as ice. "Oh my God, Elara, my baby." Her words tumbled out in frantic bursts, almost manic. "You're alive. You're here. Oh God. Oh, thank God." Her reaction should have felt comforting. I should have collapsed into her arms, cried, let her hold me. That's what daughters were supposed to do after miracles. But everything inside me recoiled. Her touch felt wrong. Her warmth felt foreign. And beneath her shaking hands, I sensed something else. Fear. Yes. Shock, definitely. But also something deeper, darker. Guilt. My father didn't rush toward me, didn't cry, didn't reach for me. He stared as if I were a puzzle piece forced into the wrong box. "Elara," he said slowly, cautiously. "Where have you been all this time?" I smiled, but it wasn't the soft, sweet smile from my childhood photos. "Why don't we sit down?" I suggested, stepping further into the house. "And talk about that." My mother blinked rapidly, pulling her hands away and smoothing her hair even though it didn't need smoothing. Yes, of course," she said quickly. "Let's go to the living room." "Of course." "Yes." We moved as though walking through invisible webs. Every step thick, every breath heavy. The house smelled the same. Pine cleaner, lavender candles, my mother's perfume. But under those familiar scents was something rotten. Something I'd been too young to notice before. Secrets. We sat down. My parents across from me alone on the couch. A triangle of tension so sharp it could cut skin. My mother spoke first. "Elara, sweetheart, we thought you were dead. We grieved you." "We? Why?" I interrupted. She blinked again. "What do you mean? Why did you think I was dead?" My voice stayed calm, unshaken. "You didn't see a body." My father stiffened. "The authorities told you I was missing," I corrected. Neither responded. "I want the truth," I said, leaning forward. "Not the version you gave the town. Not the sweet tragic narrative you fed the priest and the newspapers. The real truth." My father's jaw clenched. "We did what we had to. Did you really think I would never come back?" Silence. My mother opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again like a fish gasping for air. "Elara," she whispered finally, "you don't understand what happened." "Then explain." Her eyes flickered to my father, then to me, then down to her trembling hands. "We didn't bury you because we lost hope," she said. "We buried you because someone told us to." The air left my lungs. "What?" "Yes," she choked out. Someone came to the house. Someone dangerous. They said if we didn't bury you, if we kept looking, they would kill us. They threatened us, Elara. They told us you were gone. They made us sign papers. They made us stop searching." My pulse roared in my ears. "Who?" I whispered. "They didn't give a name." My father finally spoke. We didn't know who they were, but they made it clear they were watching. My mind spun, fast and ruthless, connecting dots that had been scattered for years. The van, the hands, the scent, the men who passed me like merchandise, the shadows that controlled everything. They were connected. They were bigger than I realized. And somehow they reached my parents. I swallowed hard. And you just obeyed? My father's voice cracked. Alara. We were terrified, not of losing a daughter, of losing themselves. That truth hit harder than any blow I'd taken in those 5 years. So you buried me, I said slowly, because it was the safer option. My mother burst into tears. Alara, please, we didn't want to. We didn't choose this. We were trapped. But I was actually trapped, I said quietly. And you gave up. Neither of them spoke. Neither of them could. Because they both knew I wasn't wrong. My hands shook. Not from fear, but from the weight of a betrayal I'd spent years refusing to imagine. My parents weren't monsters. They weren't villains. They were cowards. And cowards could be just as dangerous. I stood up. We're not done, I said. But I need air. I stepped out of the living room, ignoring my mother's sobs and my father's stunned silence. I walked through the hallway, every step an echo of a childhood that felt like someone else's life. I reached the front door. But before I touched the handle, a shadow moved across the yard. Someone stood at the end of the driveway, tall, still, watching the house, watching me. My blood froze. My breath disappeared. For the first time since returning to Blackridge Hollow, I felt fear slice through me. They knew I was back, and they were already waiting. The figure at the end of the driveway didn't move. Not an inch, not a shift of weight, not even a tilt of the head. Just watching. The morning light stretched in long, pale lines across the yard, and every second I stared at that silhouette, the air grew colder, thinner, tighter around my lungs. My parents were behind me in the house. Guilty, trembling, scared of the consequences of my return. But the person outside was deliberate. A threat. A message. I'd spent 5 years reading people from their shadows, their footsteps, their breathing. Survival sharpened my instincts until hesitation became a luxury I couldn't afford. And every instinct screamed the same thing. Run. But I didn't. Instead, I opened the door and stepped onto the porch. Slowly, deliberately, as if I had every right to walk toward the living embodiment of my nightmares. The figure raised their chin just slightly, acknowledging me. A cold smile twitched at the corner of their mouth. They knew I saw them. They wanted me to. My fingers curled around the railing. What do you want? I called out, voice steady despite the storm brewing in my ribs. No answer. Instead, the figure turned, smooth, clean, practiced, and walked away down the road with a calmness that made my skin crawl. Not hurried, not desperate, just assured like they'd accomplished exactly what they came for. A warning. I stayed frozen until the figure disappeared past the treeline. Then I exhaled shakily and stepped back inside. My father was standing in the hallway now, pale as the dead. Who was that? I closed the door slowly. Someone watching us. His jaw clenched, fear flickering deep in his eyes. Did they speak to you?
No.
My mother appeared at the base of the stairs, her face blotched from crying. Alara? Should we call the police? Her voice cracked. They didn't help before, but maybe. Police won't touch this, I said. Whatever group took me, they have reach. Then what do we do? My father asked. We don't panic, I said simply. Not yet. He blinked. Not yet. I walked past them both and headed toward the kitchen. My old sanctuary. The place where I used to sneak late-night cereal and study by the dim under-cabinet lights. Everything looked the same, untouched, preserved, like a museum of a life I no longer owned. I needed water. I needed a clear mind. I opened the cabinet. Same glasses. Same neat rows. My mother followed me, wringing her hands. Alara, we should contact someone. A lawyer. A detective. Anyone. You had 5 years to do that, I said quietly. She flinched. I'm sorry, Mother, but you did bury me. Silence fell between us. A silence thick with guilt she couldn't swallow. When I finished drinking, I turned to both of them. I need details, I said. Everything you remember. Every threat. Every conversation. Every visitor. Don't protect me from any of it. The truth is the only thing that matters now. My father hesitated, then nodded stiffly. We'll tell you everything. We moved to the dining table. My mother sat with trembling hands. My father sat like a man facing trial. And I listened. The night I disappeared, they called the police immediately. Panicked, desperate, terrified. For 48 hours, they searched everywhere. Neighborhood patrols, canvassing, missing flyers, interviews. Then on the third day, around midnight, someone knocked on the door. A man. Tall. Dark coat. Gloves. He handed them an envelope with photographs. Photographs of me. Bound. Drugged. Eyes half open. My stomach twisted. The man told them the search needed to stop immediately. If they continued, there would be consequences. Deadly ones. He said Alara was gone. My mother whispered, tears streaming. He told us you were already dead. Then why did you bury me? I demanded. My father swallowed hard. 2 days later, he came back. With papers, documents, a death certificate. He made it very clear what would happen if we refused to sign. And then, my mother whispered shakily, they delivered a casket. Sealed. Heavy. We weren't allowed to open it. My pulse went cold. Someone forced you? I whispered, barely audible. Yes, my mother said. We thought we were protecting you, but we were protecting ourselves. And the house? I asked. Did you ever get more visits? My father nodded stiffly. 3. The last one was a year ago. They warned us never to speak of you again. Never to question what happened. My mother's voice shook. They said if we tried to dig up the past, they'd finish what they started. My breath trembled, but not from fear. From fury. A slow, simmering rage that felt like molten iron sliding through my veins. I wasn't done listening, but my mind was already spinning. Living through every second of those 5 years. Replaying faces, voices, threats, every whisper in every dark room. I didn't know who the man was, but I knew the type. Organized, connected, powerful. The kind who dealt in human lives like stock trades. My father leaned forward, voice low. Alara, you need to leave town. My mother gasped. David, it's for her safety, he snapped. If they see she's back. They already have, I said. Both froze. I told them about the figure watching the house. My mother covered her mouth. My father's hands curled into fists. This is worse than we thought, he muttered. But I was already standing. I'm not running, I said. Not again. Alara. No, my voice cut sharp. I ran for 5 years. I hid for 5 years. I prayed someone would come for me for 5 years. My throat tightened. And no one did. Their faces crumpled with shame. I'm not leaving, I continued. Not until I know who took me. Not until I know why. And not until I make sure they can never take another girl again. That quiet fire inside me flared into something fierce and unshakable. My father exhaled sharply, rubbing his temples. If you stay, you need protection. I shook my head. I need information. Truth is my weapon now. My mother wiped her eyes, voice weak. Where will you start? I didn't hesitate. Where it all began. The road I disappeared on. The forest path where the van had pulled up. The place my life had been stolen. Blackridge Hollow Forest still smelled like damp soil and pine needles. Like childhood hikes and autumn walks, and the one night everything went wrong. I walked slowly, every step echoing old memories I never wanted but couldn't forget. The sunlight filtered through the trees in thin, delicate beams. Birds scattered as I approached, as if wary of the darkness clinging to me. My boots crunched over fallen branches. My heart thudded against my ribs. And then I saw it. A tire mark in the dirt. Deep, fresh. Someone had been here recently. Someone who knew I'd return. I crouched down, brushing my fingers lightly along the indentation. The track was large, heavy vehicle.
Ovon.
My breath trembled. Not again. I scanned the forest, senses sharpened. Silence. Until a twig snapped behind me. My hand reached instinctively into my jacket. 5 years had taught me to never walk without a blade. But before I could turn fully, a voice spoke. A voice I hadn't heard in 5 years. Alara? Is that really you? The ground fell out from under me. I spun around and froze. Standing a few feet away was a man I had never expected to see again. Not here, not now, not ever.
Lucas Hale.
The only person who had ever tried to help me during captivity. A boy then, 19, maybe 20, forced into the same ring, the same nightmare. He'd been beaten for trying to protect me. He'd been punished for giving me food, water, hope. He'd whispered to me once, "If we ever get out, I'll find you." I thought he was dead. He looked older now, leaner, harder, scars tracing subtle lines across his jaw and neck. Dark hair, wild from the breeze. Eyes I remembered vividly, warm, defiant, alive, even in the darkest moments. "Lucas," I whispered, my throat tight. How are you here?" He took a slow step forward. "I've been looking for you for years." A soft, broken sound escaped me. For the first time since stepping back into this town, something inside me cracked. Not in pain, but in relief. He studied me, eyes glinting with disbelief. "You're real. You're alive." "So are you," I murmured. "I escaped 2 years after you vanished," he said, voice rough. "I searched."
Gu. Alara. I searched everywhere.
"I was kept in different places," I said. "They moved me constantly." "I know." His jaw tightened. "I tracked what I could. Rumors, names, shipments. But after a while, the trail went cold." I swallowed hard. "Why are you here now?" He hesitated, then reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. He held it out to me. My name was written on it. My real name, Adelina Rousseau, confirmed alive. My blood froze. "Where did you get this?" Lucas's voice dropped to a whisper. "Someone on the inside sent it to me. Someone who wants them taken down. Them. The faceless shadows that destroyed lives like mine." I unfolded the note further. There was an address. In Blackridge Hollow. My hometown. A chill ran through me so sharp it burned. "They're here," I whispered. Lucas nodded grimly. "They've always been here. This town is where it started." My heart pounded. This wasn't just a return. This was a battlefield. And without warning, Lucas grabbed my wrist. "Alara," he said urgently. "We have to go. Someone followed you." I saw them. My breath stopped. "The same one watching the house?" "Yes. They were in the trees when you walked in. They saw everything." Panic sliced through me. But beneath it, something stronger rose. Determination. Resolve. Rage. I met Lucas's gaze with a steadiness I didn't feel. "I'm not running," I said again. He exhaled, frustrated. "You're going to get yourself killed. Not before I get answers." We stared at each other. Two survivors carved out of the same hell, shaped by the same flames. Finally, Lucas spoke. "There's more you need to know," he said quietly. "About your parents. About the night you disappeared. About who ordered your burial." I went still. My voice dropped to a whisper. "What about them?" Lucas looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. "Alara, your parents weren't just victims." My stomach twisted. "What do you mean?" He stepped closer, voice low. "They weren't threatened into burying you." My breath caught. Lucas continued. "They were involved." The trees blurred. The world tilted. My lungs forgot how to work.
No. I whispered.
"They were scared. They said." "They lied," Lucas said. "Your parents weren't just told to bury you. They were paid to." Everything inside me went cold. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a second page. A receipt. A wire transfer. $250,000. To David and Elizabeth Voss.
Zenda. Blackridge Consortium.
Memo, termination. I stared at it until the edges burned into my vision. Termination. Not of my search. Of me. Alara, Lucas whispered. Your parents sold you. The forest spun. The ground shifted. My breath fractured into sharp, irregular shards. But beneath the crushing weight of it, a new fire ignited, hotter, darker, more consuming than anything I'd felt before. They didn't lose me. They gave me away. And the people who took me, they were still here, watching, hunting, waiting. Lucas touched my shoulder gently. We don't have much time. If you want the truth, all of it, you have to be ready. I lifted my head slowly. And the girl they buried 5 years ago, the girl named on that polished pine coffin, vanished forever. Only the fighter remained. Then let's finish this, I said. The forest felt heavier after Lucas spoke, like the trees themselves were holding their breath, waiting for me to either break or burn. My parents sold me, not threatened, not coerced, not desperate, bought. My life exchanged for a wire transfer. I stared at the paper in my trembling hands. The ink seemed to bleed into my skin, searing itself into my memory, branding me with a truth so vicious my heart stuttered. Why would they do that? I whispered. Lucas's jaw tightened. Money, fear, influence. They were connected to the consortium long before you ever disappeared. The consortium. The name thrummed through my chest like a dormant monster waking. I'd heard it whispered in dim rooms, muttered by guards, carved into crates. The group behind everything, the kidnappings, the trafficking, the disappearances. You're saying my parents worked with them? My voice cracked. Not always, Lucas said. But they got involved at some point. Maybe out of greed. Maybe out of fear. But from what I've learned, they weren't innocent. They helped them. They enabled them. The words hit me like cold waves, each one pushing me deeper into a place I didn't recognize. Place beyond pain. Place beyond fear. Place where vengeance lived. Lucas knelt in front of me, gripping my arms. Listen to me, Alara. What they did was unforgivable. But right now, we're in danger. The people who took you, they know you're back. They're not going to wait this time. I forced myself to breathe. One inhale. One exhale. Slow. Controlled. They didn't take my life. They forged it. I lifted my head. Where's this address from the note? He handed it back. It's an abandoned textile factory on the east side of town. It's one of their local bases. My pulse quickened. And you're sure? He nodded. I've been there. I scouted it. They're using it as a meeting point, storage, and... He hesitated. And what? Recruitment, he said darkly. Young girls. Runaways. Anyone no one will miss. The air vanished from my lungs. This town. This place I used to call home was a hunting ground. How many people are there? I asked quietly. 6 to 8 at a time, Lucas said. Sometimes more. I stood. My fear hit the forest floor and didn't rise with me. I'm going. Lucas looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Absolutely not alone. It's not your fight. Yes, Alara. He shook his head, eyes burning with something like anger and something like loyalty. It is. We need a plan. Already have one, he said. But if we go in tonight, we need gear, supplies, weapons. My pulse sparked with something fierce. Where? My safe house, he replied. Come on. We moved quickly through the forest, silent as shadows breaking their chains. Lucas kept glancing around, scanning every sound. Couldn't blame him. 5 years had taught me the same paranoia. The trees felt alive, watching, listening, warning us. Eventually we reached a clearing. A small cabin sat at the center, run-down but sturdy, hidden beneath thick pine canopy. Lucas pushed open the door, and inside lay a stash of equipment that made my breath hitch. Knives, flashlights, first aid kits, maps, radio comms, and a gun. A single, black, cold metal handgun resting on the table. He saw my eyes lingering. I never wanted to use it, he said softly. But they don't fight fair. I walked to it. My fingers hovered above the metal. I hadn't touched a gun in 5 years. Not since the night I tried to escape and they caught me. The memory sliced into me like a blade. Shouts, hands, a gun pressed to my forehead, time stopping like a skipped heartbeat. But now, touching the weapon didn't make me flinch. It grounded me. I grabbed it and Lucas nodded slightly. We packed quickly. Lucas spread a blueprint of the factory on the table. "This is the layout," he said. "One main entrance, 2 side doors, and 1 back exit used for deliveries. And security? Armed. Minimal but armed. Probably masked." I pressed my palm on the blueprint, tracing the main hall. "This is where they keep them?" He nodded. "Usually. How do we get in without alerting them?" "We don't," Lucas said. "We go in prepared." His eyes locked onto mine. "Alara, once we commit, there's no turning back." "I haven't turned back in 5 years," I said. "I won't start now." The sky was darkening when we left the cabin. The wind carried the scent of coming rain as we approached the abandoned factory. Rusted steel, cracked windows, faded paint. A graveyard for machines. But tonight, it was more than that. It was a hive, and we were walking straight into it. Lucas motioned for silence as we neared a side door. He crouched down, picked the lock, and pushed it open a crack. Voices drifted out, muffled but unmistakable. Male, laughing, talking like this place wasn't hell on earth. We slipped inside. The hall was dim, lit by flickering lights overhead. The smell hit me first: sweat, mold, old metal, and something else. Fear. I knew that smell too well. We crept forward, footsteps ghost soft. Lucas led, scanning corners. I followed, jaw tight, ready to strike. A room up ahead glowed with harsher light. Voices spilled out, arguments, orders, the clatter of crates. We reached the doorway and peeked inside. For men, all armed, all alert, and behind them cages. 6 cages, each holding a girl, no older than 17. My blood turned to fire. I stepped forward, but Lucas grabbed my arm. "Alara, don't. They're kids," I hissed. "Like I was." "I know," he whispered. "But if we go in guns up, we're dead." My hands shook. Not with fear, but rage so sharp it vibrated in my bones. "Trust me," Lucas murmured. I forced myself to step back. He reached into his jacket, pulling out a small device. A flash charge. He held up 3 fingers. 3, 2, 1. He tossed it into the room. An explosion of blinding white light detonated silently. The men shouted, stumbling. Lucas charged. I followed. We hit them hard, fast, ruthless. Lucas tackled the first guard, slamming him into the wall. I grabbed another's arm, twisted, and slammed the back of my fist into his jaw. He hit the floor with a grunt. Another guard swung at me. I ducked, grabbed the metal pipe at my feet, and cracked it across his ribs. He collapsed, gasping. Last one reached for his gun. I didn't think. I reacted. I aimed the handgun and fired. The shot echoed like thunder. The guard dropped. Silence claimed the room. My breath came ragged. My hands shook around the gun. Lucas's voice broke through. "Alara. Hey, look at me." I looked. "You did what you had to." I nodded once, swallowing hard. Then we both turned to the cages. The girls stared in terror and disbelief, eyes wide, bodies trembling. "It's okay," I whispered, kneeling. "You're safe now." One girl, barely 16, whispered, Who are you?" I swallowed thickly. "Someone who came back." Lucas broke the locks quickly. The girls hugged each other, sobbing softly, relief trembling through their thin shoulders. But our job wasn't done. Heavy footsteps echoed from deeper inside the factory. Fast, angry, multiplied. "They heard the shot," Lucas said. We positioned ourselves behind a row of crates as more guards rushed in. 4, 5, 6 of them, armed, prepared, furious. This was it. The fight blurred, gunfire cracking like lightning, shouts ricocheting across steel walls, adrenaline flooding through every vein. Lucas handled 2 on the left, taking them down with brutal efficiency. I fought on the right, every hit a piece of my past breaking free, every shot a reclaiming of power they once stole. When the last guard fell, the room fell silent again. Lucas breathed hard. We need to move. Reinforcements will come. I nodded. We guided the girls toward the back exit, away from danger toward freedom. But as we neared the door, a figure stepped inside. Tall, cold, smiling, the same silhouette from my driveway. Hello, Alara, he said smoothly. We've been waiting. My blood froze. Who are you? I demanded. He tilted his head. The one who made your parents very rich. My stomach twisted. You're the one who took me. He smirked. You were a profitable investment. Something inside me snapped so cleanly the sound echoed in my soul. I raised my gun. He laughed softly, stepping closer without fear. You think killing me solves this? We are bigger than you. Bigger than this town. Bigger than your grief-ridden vengeance. I didn't blink. You won't touch anyone else. Brave, he said. Stupid, but brave. He reached for his weapon. I fired first. The bullet hit center. He staggered, choking on his own arrogance, then collapsed to the floor. Lucas exhaled sharply. We need to go. Now. We fled the factory with the girls, disappearing into the darkened streets before sirens could fill the air. At the edge of the forest, a convoy of emergency vehicles arrived. Someone must have called after hearing shots. The girls were safe. The consortium's base was exposed, and the man who orchestrated my abduction lay dead. But I wasn't done. Lucas turned to me as dawn began to rise. Alara, what now? I looked toward my town, my past, my scars. Now, I said quietly, I make sure this never happens again. For the first time since I was 18, the world felt wide open. I wasn't a ghost. I wasn't a victim. I wasn't a name carved on a gravestone. I was the girl who came back. And this time, I wasn't disappearing. If you want more stories like this, dark, powerful, twisted, emotional, full of revenge, survival, and shocking plot twists, then follow, like, and share to support these long-form stories. Your support helps unlock new chapters, new worlds, and even more brutal, heart-hitting narratives. Let me know if you want the sequel, the villain's POV, or a cinematic rewrite. Your wish builds the next story.